How's it going, everyone? It is week 10 at the Springfield VFW. I'm here with Coach Slopek. Coach, how's it going this week?
Pretty good, Noah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. When we just had two great guys, Braden Baird and Steve Moreland, on before. You want to say some words about them?
Yeah, I talked about Braden before this year, earlier this season, but it's been such a wonderful thing to see how he's progressed as a leader. He and I had a talk yesterday about like the importance of when you have that adversity of a loss and a really tough loss to a really good team, and how what he needed to do to help us bounce back, and I think he's been everything that I've wanted from him throughout the course of the year. Couldn't be more proud of how he's grown. I was thinking when he was talking, like, I remember when he was a sophomore and he was like our scout team quarterback, and he would listen to me explain to the defense, like, where are the weak parts, like, here's, okay, we're in cover three, the weak parts are the seams and the outs, and son of a gun, if he didn't throw it right there, where the weak parts were. And I'd look at him like, you son of a gun, you just listened to me explain it. But, like, that's what I knew. I was like, well, that's a competitive kid. Like, he wants to do well. He wants to win, so, like, I've long admired, just his competitive spirit. And to see him, have a really good senior year has been important to me, and I'm real proud of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just two great guys that we got a chance to talk to.
Yeah, I want to forget about Steve.
Yeah.
And Steve is a guy. I was just telling some of our basketball coaches. I was like, Steve is going to be an animal for you this year. Like, Steve has progressed and improved so much throughout the course of the year. He's kind of become more comfortable, and he's become a physical presence on the field, and so, like, to watch that evolution just throughout the course of the year, like, I'm really expect big things from him the rest of football. I expect that he's going to have a great basketball season, and that's going to translate into a great senior year next year, playing receiver for us, and things like that. Like, I've seen so many guys that were kind of like him, tall, and had to kind of figure out how to use their athleticism and stuff like that. And, like, that junior year of basketball was like it all clicked, and then they came back their senior years in football and just were outstanding perimeter players for us. So, like, I'm really excited to just watch him continue to grow too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great to talk to him after his biggest game of the year. As a coach, what's it like to get to be on the sideline and see your guys get like their first touchdown or hit a milestone out there?
You don't think about it that much in the course of the game, because you're always on to, like, the next thing. But it is pretty special when you sit back and you see, like, these kids are having and making, these, I know it's kind of cliche, like, make memories, and everything, but, like, they are really going to be things that they remember for the rest of their lives. And to have, I mean, I have a very small part in that, you know what I mean? They have to go out and do it. And so it's especially gratifying, like, it's like kind of watching your own kids do great things, and you get excited, like, that's kind of what it feels like on some level. So that is a special thing. But in the course of the game, you don't think about it. But I know, like, when I was thinking about it afterwards, I was like, man, that's pretty special. And we get to see that every single week. It's what makes coaching a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to look back on after the game, or take that accomplishment. It means so much to the players, and I'm sure that's what means the most to you.
Absolutely.
But McDonald 7-6 loss. We'll
Hmm.
get into that. What's your first thoughts on that game?
We put ourselves in some bad spots, penalty wise. We probably took more penalties in the course of the game than we have all season, and that's a tribute to them. I mean, they're a really good team, and sometimes when you play really good teams, it forces you into some errors that you're not used to making, and that put us behind in some situations. So that was a big thing. Having negative runs, and it's my fault. I didn't prepare our guys well enough to do things that could protect our base runs. I was kicking myself as I was coming home on the bus. I was thinking, well, we could have done this and we could have done that, and why I didn't do it in the course of the game. Really, it falls down to me. And it's my fault, and I got to get that fixed because the effort was so outstanding from our kids. We just have to work on owning that and getting better, this coming week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's something I mentioned to Braden and I mentioned to Steve too, after a tough loss like that, it's a teaching or learning opportunity, but it's also a learning opportunity, like you said, for yourself as a
Yeah.
coach. What can you take from that game and to try to, especially you said the negative yards rushing, that's
Hmm.
something that you guys probably weren't expecting out there.
Certainly not. No.
No, but what can you take and learn from that to get your guys prepared for the rest of the year?
Well, there's the when I talked about like protecting your base runs, like there's all kinds of different things. You can throw perimeter passes off of your base runs. You can have tweaks to blocking schemes to protect your base runs, and being able to to come up with that in the moment is really where it because they maybe give you a little bit of a different look. And the thing that really upset me about it honestly was it was similar. It was similar defensively. They had better players, but it was similar scheme wise to what Lakeview gave us, and gave us some trouble at times running off tackle. And I'm like, man, why didn't I just like go back to those ideas, like and suggest those to Coach Franklin and stuff like that, and that was the biggest thing. And I'll just be real open and honest about that. Like I feel really bad about that because it was like, why am I thinking about this now? Like because there's things that we could have done that I think could have given us a better chance. I don't know if it really would have worked. You know what I mean? But we always talk about like a good plan, like a George Patton quote, like a good plan, if you execute it violently now, is better than a perfect plan next week. You know what I mean? So I would have liked to have tried, some different, and we did try some different things, but we couldn't ever really get the run game going. But we hit some big pass plays. We did some good things in the pass game that I think we can grow on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to learn off of that, but we'll get in to that. We'll get back to that in a sec. I just want to take you into Lowville next week.
Hmm.
For last game of the year, it's on the road. What's your thoughts going into that game?
Yeah, I think for Lowville, in our game against Lowville is always an emotional game. I think both communities think it's really important and want to go out and win. I tend to downplay that a little bit more than other people might. Like I think that rivalries are great and everything like that, but it really is going to boil down to who blocks and tackles better. Like it's the emotions are going to dissipate pretty quickly. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like in the game, you get all fired up or whatever, but then you start to play, and it becomes who blocks and who tackles better, who executes their better. You know what I mean? Like who can throw and catch better. Like those sorts of things come into play. So, for us, I see a team that. I think their record is a bit deceiving. You know what I mean? They're a young group as well, and they've kind of come along. They have a great receiver who was out for most of the year, unfortunately, with a collarbone injury, but he's back now, and I think that gives their offense an added dimension that we certainly have to prepare for. And so, I really want to think about, though, how can we improve, and it really doesn't matter, who we play. It's like, how can we play a cleaner game from a penalty standpoint? How can we play a more disciplined game? How can we play a more focused game? How can we improve? Because I think if we do those sorts of things, the result will take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think talking to Braden and Steve, this is a game that you guys that they want to see. At least they want to see the offense get right in this
Hmm.
game and have a big night and get back to what they're capable of and running the ball well. What do you do from the offensive standpoint to help them get going early?
Yeah, I think that there's, you look at how can we use formations to create certain things to give us certain looks on defense that become advantageous, and certain things will make things on the perimeter open up for passing game wise. Can we give them certain formations that might give their defense trouble aligning? Which if the defense has trouble aligning, then you end up in poor run fits and you can run the football. Giving them a diversity of different things to look at. From a motion standpoint and things like that could be something that we want to try. Those sorts of things. And again, that's not any different than most weeks.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You try to use, your players. Who are our best? Who do we need to get the ball to? How can we put them in advantageous formations and then let them go and play based on our play calls?
Yeah, and now going back to the McDonald game, we talked about the offense a lot. We talked about it for the Lowville game, but I do
Hmm.
want to I want to highlight the bright spot, which is that you guys took a team McDonald that's capable of scoring 40 plus points in a game,
Hmm.
and you held them to 7. You held them to 1 score. Defensively, looking ahead through the rest of the year, the playoffs, and at that game, what kind of confidence do you get just being able to keep that offense in check?
Well, no, I'll be honest with you. We should have shut them out, and then we would have won 6-0. And like that's like if we made enough mistakes on defense, and again it was effort. Our effort was unbelievable. That's why we held them to 7 points. We didn't play a perfect game though defensively. If we had played a perfect game defensively, we would have shut them out, and we'd have won 6-0. And like that's there's still like that's our kind of the goal each week is, and again we know that they practice too. We know that they're good too.
Yeah.
But like I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little upset that they scored 7, and that's for better or for worse. It's just how I feel. You know what I mean? And but they're really good, and their coaches do a great job of staying fundamentally sound and not panicking. I thought there was a moment in the game where we had pinned them back. Braden had a great punt, and we had pinned him down there, and it was like 4th and short from about the 10-yard line. I thought he's going to go for it, and we're going to stop him and get the ball at the 10-yard line. And a very disciplined coach, veteran coach, was smart, punted the ball away, but I know over there I kept looking at him like he wants to go for it. He really does. But that was something that they're not going to ever beat themselves, or rarely is McDonald going to beat themselves. They're very, like I said, very fundamentally sound, very well coached. You have to go and beat them, and they're a tough crew this year to do that against.
Absolutely. And Coach, your 3 keys to victory for Lowville this week.
Well, I think, offensively, it's staying on schedule, being able to, whether it's passing or running the ball, making sure that we're gaining positive yards, that we're not being hit for losses. That puts us, behind the 8 ball in a lot of ways. So staying on schedule offensively. Defensively, as we were talking about today when we were doing our tackling stations, they were all based on leverage. I said it's going to be a leverage game. Like, where is your help? All right, running to the ball with discipline, understanding that they're going to attack things on the perimeter, and then try to hit you in the middle of the field after they've stretched you horizontally. So how well can we keep to our leverage and play a leverage game and be able to tackle well in space and things like that? From a special team standpoint, make sure that we're positive in special teams. Make sure that we are positive in the kick return game and in the kick cover game. Make sure our punts are able, if we have to punt, make sure that our punting, forces the offense to gain yards, because for every 5 yards of a punt, it's like less of a chance of scoring for the opposing offense. So we want to make sure we can stack up those as much as possible, and to be 100% on our kicks, when it comes to either field goals or extra points.
Absolutely, Coach. Thank you so much. Best of luck against Lowville this week, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, thanks, Noah. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Man.